In one word, how would you describe your comedy?
Manic.
Silly.
Feminist, but kind of naughty and fun.
Musical.
Manic. Shocking.
Eclectic. Art.
Indecisive.
Concise. Evolving.
Feel good. Weird.
Fun.
Surreal.
Hilarious.
Serious. Pissed off.
Self-deprecating.
Brilliant.
Pubescent.
Inane.
Surprising. Stoner observation.
Oh, it's different.
Wordplay.
Incompetent.
Personal.
Energetic.
Conversational.
Cheeky.
Chaos.
Underdog.
Nerdy. Tentative.
First of all, do you have like a best gig that you just look back on as the best you've ever done?
No, I don't. No, you know, it might be the best gig you'd ever done at the time, right? But then, you know, the best gig I ever did is the last gig I did. You know, it's not going to be that. No, I don't have a best gig. I try to do my best at every gig. Now, there's some I'm better at it than others. That's true. But you know, in Edinburgh, I had a few great nights. I had about 5 great nights. I had some that were less great. I didn't feel like I had a completely shit night, except for one night when there was a man who came in, sat in the front row with his wife, and fell asleep and snored through the entire thing. And his wife kept nudging him, and I was just like, "You're sitting in the front row and you're asleep. There's nothing that could be worse than this."
See, the problem with that is that you should try and make every gig your best gig. I always forget about if gigs are good or bad. Oh, that's a lie. I always remember if they're bad. I always forget. I always forget the good gigs because I'm so focused on trying to top it for the next one. And then if I don't, I remember that.
Well, the last gig I did at G&B, I was told that I'd really sort of found my voice with my character that I was doing. So that was a lot of fun. It was the character night at G&B, and that was fun.
In Brighton, they had like a little showcase where they put like 3 newcomers on in between a couple of headliners, and Paul Sinha, who's this big comic, I guess, in the UK, wrote like a really nice review of me on his Facebook page. And then finally, right before I moved out of the UK, again, We Are a Funny Project, Alex gave me a headline spot in Putney, and the room was full of like, 65 people, closest friends, and also, folks who came out to see the other comedians, and it was just 20 minutes flew by, and it was just one of the best nights of my life.
At the Frog and Bucket in Manchester, and it is the only club where twice I've had a standing ovation from people. And as I was saying earlier in the other episode about how just that euphoric feeling of making a room full of people laugh, when you get a standing ovation, that's amazing. Like, I've never had that before in any other thing that I've done, acting or anything. And I want to go back and play the Frog and Bucket every month.
I was stoned as shit because it was the Friday morning of the festival. So I was like, why is anyone going to go to the comedy tent to watch like the least famous people on the comedy tent all weekend? So like we camped overnight. I woke up in the morning. I got incredibly high. I expected to show up to this tent to like 5 or 10 people just scattered around like half asleep. And then I got there and there were just hundreds of people there. The comedy tent was completely full. My mum and dad were there because they love festivals as well. And then, I spent the entire build up to my set panicking and having like heart palpitations because I was super high. So I was like, I need to be more energetic. So I drank like a Red Bull, but that didn't cancel each other out. They just kind of like fought each other, like Voldemort and Harry Potter at the end of the, just like, and just the weed and the coke, and I'm just going, and then I went on stage and it went really well.
Yeah, that gig at the Palace Theatre in front of 1,500 people as a support act to Russell, that was great. That was so like, because there were so many people there and it was like they were all clapping and it's like they were all on my side. I did know a few of them, but that was, to me, that was like top notch. I was like, I could get used to this. I could.
But I was just in a mood and I was like, I don't care, don't want to be here. I hate stand-up, I'm done. And I went on stage and I started doing my shtick at the time, what my act was. About 10 minutes in, stopped because it was working really well. That was the thing that was funny about it. It was I actually was having a really good set. For some reason, the audience dug it, and I just stopped and I said, you know what? I just don't want to do this anymore. I leveled with him and I said, look, I'm done here. I don't want to do this. And I just started talking. And I did about 40 more minutes. And in that time, I went from being the comic I was to the comic I am now. The first steps. And that was probably one of those gigs that really, because that was, and then I came off stage, because it wasn't all funny. It was, some of it was maddening. Some people, people went from being happy to sad, but I'd never done that. I'd never taken an audience there. I never told them exactly how I feel without any candy coating. I'd never done it. And it was a real experience of freedom, and it was really that kind of moment of going, oh, there's so much more to this than just being the guy making everything. Because up until then, so many times, everyone in the room's laughing and I'm the least happiest guy. I'm the least happy guy standing on stage making everyone have a good night. Everyone's enjoying themselves and I'm miserable. And that was one of those nights where I go, fuck it, totally selfish, just doing what I want. And that was a fundamental shift in who I was. And every day that I have moments like that, every day, those are the best gigs. When you get back to that place, no censors between you and them, that's fantastic.
Johnny Murph's gig, Rider Studios, Big Green City, I did that a couple of weeks ago, and that for me was brilliant. That night was basically the vision of how I hope to see my future. Even if I'm not making a lot of money, performing in clubs like that, it was 50-seater, full house, proper comedy, lighting, everything. People there to see comedy, and it was my best 10 minutes I've ever done. I did smash it. I felt good after. I listened to it, called in several times in lieu of rehearsing. But that and one I did at GMB a couple of weeks before that was probably my best 5 minutes. But I'm feeling confident recently because I had good gigs in the early days. My 25th gig was a gig I did in Harrow in a rugby club in front of 100. And up until that point, that was the best thing ever. Best 5 minutes of my life.
Introduced the concept of it, got people warmed up, brought on the first act, brought on the second act, then they brought me on and I did a bit and then we all came on together and that was it. And we did kind of 15-minute slots each. It was great, the interaction was fantastic, people were happy. Got somebody up to do a little joke that they did to me on the day I saw them in the audience and got them out. That was like don't give anyone the microphone rubbish. They were fantastic. It just was a beautiful, beautiful night. We couldn't have performed it any better. We couldn't have had more fun. Each member of the audience all shook our hands individually, which for 55 people going out, it was like a wedding. Oh, thank you very much. I thought you were very good. So it was, in my mind, the way that I would love all gigs to be. And we had a great experience. And that, for me, is actually my top gig.
Comedy Store, or performing for Prince Edward. Both had 450 people, in the audience. That were amazing.
There's probably about 120 people in the room, average age 65. And I was going on there with some dick jokes, talking about some Tinder stuff, dating, what else was I talking about? Instagram. So very, very modern day stuff that they wouldn't necessarily know because they might not have a smartphone. And I went there, I went on second open spot, so I was closing the middle section, and the first joke was about Grindr. And no one laughed. And then I was like, do you guys know what Grindr is? And there was one really enthusiastic man that shot his hand up and was like, I do. And I was like, okay, fine. I was like, I'll come back to you in a minute.
Best gig, I think, was the one I did for the Queer Alternative back in June. That one was great. It was my first chance really performing to an audience of people who really connected me. It's the most connected I've ever felt to an audience. And because of that, I felt much more relaxed. Like, my material was going down better than usual because people could relate to it as well as understand it. So yeah, that was really good. It was a bit of a challenge in the sense that certain of my jokes rely on people being shocked at my appearance, and this was like an LGBT night, so that I had to kind of get rid of them. But in the sense that spawned its own material.
I was gonna say our preview that we did last night as well. That was really fun. It's hard when you've got the last thing in your head, and that felt really good. So that was, my adrenaline levels were like up here for like the rest of the day.
One was Boardmasters, which is a festival in Newquay. I got off stage and went to see Snoop Dogg perform. But also there was like 450 people, and I didn't think they were listening, so I kind of, well, I assumed that most of them weren't listening. But then when I asked a question, everybody answered. And I was like, wow, like everybody's listening to me chat foolishness, like, and they've paid and stuff, like, wow. So that was really good. Festival passes and the people I was hanging out with, and they've got my favourite cider down there, Cornish Rattler, get it from Henley's Cider Farm. It's a bad boy thing, don't worry, they haven't even got enough to spread it outside of Cornwall. But yeah, lovely place, man. And I think the other gig that I really enjoyed was obviously my first gig, but I did a gig for Jonglers in Sway in Covent Garden. And that was really good because I went on and I just blew it up in like 10 minutes, just blew it up. And it was really, really good feeling to like be up there with the big boys and the people that you see on telly or so on and so forth. It was a good feeling.
Well, to get it out there, I don't have a massive dick. Well, I do. I just wanted to win you whites over. I'm single and I'm short. I find women don't like dating short men, but I reassure them by letting them know I've got tall jeans. I find they crumple up a bit at the bottom, but they allow room for my balls to breathe. I'm having a really bad hair day today. No matter what I do, I couldn't get it to stay down. I've tried everything. I tried hairspray, tried gel, even bought some of that Dax wax. In the end, just put a pair of Y-fronts on. I grew up in a place called Kettering, a predominantly white neighbourhood, so I didn't grow up around many black people. Kettering harbours some of the most fickle racists you'd ever meet. They would say to me, oh, I don't like coloureds, oh, I don't like packies, and those blacks, I can't bloody stand them. But you're alright. Voted for the BNP last year? No, I'm not racist. I've heard they'd give me 60 grand to go home. Figured you could get back to Kettering from anywhere in the UK for 60 grand.
One of my best gigs is Speaky Spokey in Brighton. It's sort of weirdly become a tradition that I always perform at their first gig every New Year. So whichever Friday it falls on, I perform it in January. I'm doing it for the fourth time next January. And it's always busy. It's a really good atmosphere, really good people run it, and you feel really like
the last one I did at King's Head, just the first punchline hit like a ton of bricks. Everybody pissed themselves, and it just built from there. There was no dips at all, and I just got carried away with it. It was so easy. It was brilliant, and I just floated off the stage at the end of it. Yeah, it's really, really good.
I can't think of one specific time, one specific gig that really stands out in my memory. There have been really good gigs, but I guess I always find something wrong with what I've done on stage, and I always pick apart what I've done and go, that could have been better, that was good, this needs to be thrown out or completely reworked or something else.
But any gig where I haven't really compromised what I've done in my set, I've enjoyed the most. When I get a really good reception to an uncompromised, I'm going to say what the fuck I want set, then that's really good. If I kill it with material that's a little bit diluted, then it's not satisfying.
It was in Sarasota, Florida, and it was a club called McCurdy's. Amazing club. Just really great sound system, really great lighting. I was in the World Series of Comedy. I came into the finals, the last of three. So I made it into the finals, top three, but I was third by far. So the other two comics got to pick their spots. Comic number one picked second, and comic number two picked third. So I had to go first. And I was like, I'm going first in the finals. I'm already behind. I want to win. And I liked being the underdog. I liked that position. And I think it motivated me and inspired me, and I went up really, really loose. I said, I got nothing to lose, just have fun. It was one of my best sets. ever. And shockingly, it was one of my best sets and I have it on video.
But actually, speaking of hecklers, the last brainwash we did, we had a guy heckle, but the whole audience was with us and was just like, shut up, you fool. So we climbed, he was sat at the very back, we climbed over all the tables and chairs to get to him and then dragged him on stage for a dance-off, and we had a proper dance-off. He picked Gareth upside down and held him upside down, started waving him around. He was a huge guy. I jumped on the dude's back and started pummeling him, and it was great. So that was a strong one, I must say. So it's always the ones where it's really something just sparks us off and it's very, you know, of the moment, very live. Those are the best ones. I don't remember any of the ones, like we've done ones that have gone really well that have been tightly scripted, but you don't remember those because they're pretty interchangeable. It's like an audience might love it, but you forget what happened unless something really out of the ordinary sort of occurred.
It was at the Cavendish Arms, and essentially, which is a good night, can be a bit hit and miss, but it was a great night. I did my Mr. Spooky routine, and everyone enjoyed it for the first time. Just got it, realised where I was going through my performance. I thought it was perfect, and I hit the notes perfectly, and it was the first time I thought people really got where I was coming from. And the fact that both Neil came first that night, I came second, and his routine was hilarious. And I was laughing so much, and I was like, I completely understand. This guy deserves to be number one. I'm so humbled to be number two. And we were like, and afterwards, I had this adrenaline rush. Like I just hit it. I'm just like, this is it. This is what I want to do now, and I'm not going to change the routine. This is who I am as a comedian.
I opened at one gig, and then travelled across London to do the closing headline spot at another gig. And the first gig I did just didn't work. It just, for whatever reason, they just weren't buying into me. They just were not buying into me. And it was 15 minutes on stage of the longest time. And then got across London to do the other one, the closing spot. And it was 2 more opposite gigs back to back would be hard to experience, because this other one was just right from the moment I went on stage and smashed up the ukulele. It was, this audience was absolutely bunkered in on board, and they were a joy, this audience. And I think probably why this was one of my favourite gigs is because it was just the perfect flip side to this I'm not interested, I don't care what you do audience, to this audience of anything you tell us, we're up for it. So that was only about a week ago.
And there was a drunk party of 10 celebrating a birthday, various ages between like early 20s to late 60s. And then another small table of 3 mid-20s completely drunk. And they started heckling the comedians and not liking any of the jokes. I was in the second half, and as soon as I kept seeing them go, I was just going, I'm going to die tonight. I am going to die spectacularly. They're gonna hate everything I do. I was still doing my creepy bit for 3 minutes back then, so just like 3 minutes out of 5. This is not gonna go well at all. And over the break, I just went out and I decided, fuck it, go off script. So I dropped all the material, I just went there and I talked to them, and I tried to work the material as I talked to them, and come up with jokes on the fly or stuff that, I don't know, I posted on Facebook, and it was a funny one-liner the year before. It just came to me, I can try and say this, and I did, and it felt great because it didn't go well as a gig, but I survived and I got so much experience out of that night. That room never scared me again.
My name is Valerio, 33, Italian. I like feminism and feeding my orgasms as a show support. Fingering makes me sleepy and I miss being in a relationship. This is my story. My mom the other day asked me why is it that I don't date Italian women anymore? And I just explained it to her. Mom, it's the same reason why I don't date men. It's because I'm lazy Sunday afternoon. I just don't want to feel a mustache brushing against the tip of my penis. That thing is sensitive, okay? Don't worry, ladies, it's just a joke. I'm circumcised. I wouldn't feel it until it's like halfway down the shaft. I often think that if Johnny Depp looked anything like me, I'd look a lot like Johnny Depp.